Okay, so think about this. As a coach, you're doing way more than just teaching plays or, running drills. You're actually passing on energy, setting examples, influencing behaviors. And that stuff goes way beyond the field or the court. It really makes you wonder, what's the actual difference between just a good coach and a truly great one?
Yeah, and what's really fascinating when you look into it is that it's often not just about the technical stuff like designing workouts or strategy. I mean, that's important, sure. But the core thing seems to be about who the coach is as a person and the habits they consistently live out day after day. So in this deep dive, we're going to explore those crucial habits, leaning heavily on Julie Hatfield Still's work on the 7 habits of high-performing coaches.
Right, that's the plan for you listening today. We want to really unpack these specific habits. Think of it as a bit of a shortcut to understanding that huge impact coaches can have. And maybe more importantly, pinpoint some practical, maybe even surprising insights you can take away from these high performance principles. Doesn't matter if you're a coach, a leader, or honestly, just someone curious about what makes people excel. Okay, let's get into it. So the first habit Hatfield still talks about, it's that high-performing coaches prioritize their own health and well-being. And that sounds almost counterintuitive, doesn't it? Because the common image is the coach putting everyone else first. The long days, late nights, grabbing bad food on the run, basically sacrificing their own well-being for the team. What's the real impact of that?
Oh, the impact is huge. And it's detrimental, really, not just for the coach, but for the athletes, too. The big shift the best coaches make is seeing their own health not as a luxury, but as a fundamental leadership tool. They get that their energy, their focus, their emotional state, it all directly affects their coaching. So it's not an afterthought. They actually schedule exercise. They're mindful about nutrition and sleep. They guard it like it's a competitive edge because, well, it is. They also get this art of recovery thing, actually taking breaks, unplugging, setting boundaries. It allows them to show up recharged, not running on empty.
Right. And when coaches actually model that, walking the talk, it sends a really powerful message to their athletes, doesn't it? That sustainable high performance isn't just about relentless grinding. It's also about taking care of the engine, the body, and the mind. It's a silent lesson, but a really important one. Okay, but moving from the physical to the mental side, especially how we see ourselves in relation to others, because habit number 2 gets really interesting. It's about practicing inspired comparison, not incompetent comparison. And let's face it, in our world of highlight reels and social media everywhere, comparison is almost impossible to avoid. The source says it's normal, it's human. But how do you turn that into something inspiring instead of, something that just drags you down?
That's the million-dollar question, right? Right. Because the usual advice is just don't compare. But high-performing coaches seem to flip the script. Unhealthy comparison, or incompetent comparison, as Hatfield still calls it, sounds like, oh, I'll never be as good as Coach Smith, or their team always wins, why bother, or look at their facilities, we can't compete. That kind of thinking just sucks the energy right out of you. It kills confidence. But inspired comparison, that sounds totally different. It's more like, wow, Coach Chen runs an amazing offense. What elements could I learn from that? Or I really admire how they build team culture. How could I adapt some of those ideas here? It might even be that simple thought. They can achieve that. Maybe I can too. It reframes competition into a learning opportunity, almost like collaboration and raising standards.
Yeah, that's a massive mental shift. So instead of feeling defeated by someone else's success, you're using it as fuel. It changes the whole dynamic from I can't because they can to maybe I can because they showed it's possible. It's a complete mindset turnaround. Very powerful. So, okay, if prioritizing yourself is the foundation and reframing comparison shapes the mindset, this next habit, number 3, seems to get to the core of how coaches actually show up in the moment. Because a coach's emotional state, it really does set the whole atmosphere, doesn't it? Athletes are like emotional sponges sometimes. They pick up on stress, frustration.
Oh, absolutely. They're incredibly perceptive. But the key here is that high-performing coaches aren't emotionless. They're not robots. They are emotionally regulated. Big difference. What does that look like? Well, they tend to stay calmer under pressure. They bounce back quicker from mistakes or bad calls. They have strategies, maybe it's a deep breath, a mental cue, to stop frustration from dictating their actions or their words. So a mistake becomes a teaching point, not a reason to yell. Stressful moment. They're the steady hand, not adding to the chaos. They become the anchor.
Wow. So that kind of modeling, it obviously builds trust, but it sounds like it does more. It actually builds resilience in the athletes. They learn by watching, learn how to handle their own nerves, how to deal with setbacks, how to perform when things get tense. It's like a real-time lesson in emotional intelligence. Okay, moving on to habit 4. High-performing coaches communicate with clarity and purpose. Now, Good communication sounds obvious for a coach, right? But the source suggests it's more than just yelling instructions or pointing out errors. What's the deeper layer here?
Yeah, it's definitely more nuanced. Great coaches adapt how they talk based on the athlete's age, their personality, the situation. They often ask more questions, good questions that make the athlete think, rather than just feeding them answers all the time. And their feedback, it's specific, constructive, it builds confidence even while it's challenging them to improve.
Yeah.
But maybe the most crucial part highlighted is their ability to really listen, like truly listen, creating that space where athletes feel safe, feel heard, feel valued enough to actually speak up. That's where the magic happens. They might pick up on body language, the unsaid things.
That deep listening piece that builds the relationship muscle, which then makes all the coaching more effective. But you said, really listen. In the middle of a chaotic practice or a game, how does a coach actually show that beyond just like nodding?
It's about being intentional, even in brief moments. It could be asking one quick follow-up question that shows you understood the feeling behind their words, not just the surface level. Or just quickly paraphrasing what you heard them say. Okay, so you're feeling frustrated because confirms you got it. Maybe it's carving out just 2 minutes before practice for a quick check-in. Or during a game, it might just be locking eyes, acknowledging their effort or struggle, then giving clear, calm direction. It's about being fully present, even for a second.
Makes sense, that presence. Okay, let's talk about habit number 5. This one feels like it's about the coach's own journey. It's their commitment to continued education and expansion. The idea that the best coaches never feel like they've arrived. They're always learning.
Exactly. They embody lifelong learning. And it's not just theory, it's concrete actions. They're the ones going to workshops, reading books not just on sport, but psychology, leadership, communication. They network, they talk to other coaches, they actively seek out mentors. And interestingly, the source mentions reverse mentorship too, learning from younger coaches, maybe about new tech or different ways kids communicate today. This constant learning prevents them from getting stale, obviously, but it also powerfully models that curiosity and drive for improvement for their athletes.
Yeah, and I liked the point that it's not just about taking information in, but also about creating or sharing it. Like when you have to teach something or explain it clearly to someone else, it forces you to understand it on a deeper level yourself. That reinforces your own learning. It's a cycle. Okay, habit 6 shifts the focus a bit towards the environment the coach creates. High-performing coaches build cultures of respect and collaboration. This suggests the team's atmosphere is as important for growth as, say, the training schedule.
Oh, absolutely critical. High-performing coaches are intentional culture builders. They work hard to foster respect, and that means athletes feel safe. They feel valued as individuals, not just as players on a roster. This translates perfectly to business environments, too, thinking about performance and retention. And crucially, that respect has to flow both ways. The coach respects the athlete's effort, listens to their perspectives, acknowledges their experiences. Then there's collaboration. That's not just players working together. It's the coach working with assistants, support staff, even parents sometimes. It creates this feeling of shared ownership, partnership. We're all in this together, which is the total opposite of those toxic environments built on fear or favoritism or just top-down control.
And the result of that kind of culture, you get more engagement, right? More motivation. Athletes are more willing to take risks, push their limits because they feel supported. Ultimately, it helps them thrive, not just in the sport, but gives them skills for life, having been in that positive environment. Which leads us nicely into the final habit, number 7. High-performing coaches practice self-reflection and mental agility. These feel very connected.
They absolutely are. Two sides of the same coin, really. The self-reflection piece means they regularly step back. They ask themselves the tough questions. Okay, what went well this week? What could I have done better? Where does this team or this individual athlete need me most right now? It keeps them honest, keeps them accountable, and again models that growth mindset. But reflection isn't quite enough on its own. You need the mental agility to act on those reflections. That's the ability to adapt, to pivot, to change course when things aren't working or the situation suddenly changes. Reading the room or the game. Practically, this might mean having quick reset techniques for themselves when they feel stressed, like we talked about with emotional regulation. It could mean having pre-game routines for themselves to get focused, or being ready to ditch plan A and switch to plan B or C mid-game if needed. That split-second adjustment, that's mental agility.
And when coaches are okay with tweaking things, even admitting maybe their initial plan wasn't perfect, it shows athletes that mistakes are okay. They become opportunities to learn and adjust. That encourages experimentation, builds resilience, helps everyone thrive even when things get tough. So, pulling all this together, What's the big takeaway here?
Well, I think the overarching message is that high performance in coaching, or leadership really, isn't about achieving some kind of perfection. It's not realistic. It's about the consistency in living out these kinds of habits, day in, day out, because it's those consistent actions, those modeled behaviors that truly shape the coach and, in turn, profoundly impact the young people looking up to them, way more than any single win or loss.
That's so true. You think back, athletes might forget the exact drills from years ago or the score of most games, but they will remember how their coach made them feel. They'll remember the coach who was calm under fire, the one who was always learning, the one who treated everyone with respect. That's the stuff that sticks.
Exactly. So maybe a practical takeaway for you listening is this. Don't feel like you have to tackle all 7 at once. Just pick one of these habits that resonates with you, and consciously lean into it this week. See what happens.
Yeah.
Because those small, consistent shifts, over time, they really do compound into significant growth.
Yeah, a great challenge. And leaves us with this thought. If a coach consistently working on just one of these areas can have such a profound ripple effect on an athlete's entire development, maybe even their life, what could consistently applying just one of these insights do for your own growth, personally or professionally, no matter what field you're in? Something to think about.